Jen and Ben, that report is more than 40 pages long, and it was just released a little over an hour ago, and it found that there was no misconduct by Naugatuck Police Chief Stephen Hunt, and that he shouldn't face any disciplinary action or be terminated for the alleged actions of his daughter. Now, the investigation was launched back in January when those racially charged messages first came to light. They were screenshots of Snapchats that were reportedly sent back in 2019. The Snapchats were allegedly sent by the chief and Naugatuck High School's associate principal, Jonna Hunt's daughter. According to the parents, the child was 13 at the time that those messages were sent. The pictures reference police shootings against Black people. Naugatuck Mayor Pete Hess called for several investigations into what happened. And in that report from one of the investigations released today, the findings are that the chief's employment contract and Connecticut state law include a just cause requirement for someone to be fired. And the investigation found that that wasn't met. It also found that no policies, procedures, rules, or regulations of the police department were broken by the chief. It says that those rules pertain to employees and don't say anything about an employee's child. The report states that both Chief Hunt and his wife were interviewed and that both of them condemned their daughter's actions. The couple did also release an open letter to the community back in January condemning the actions as well. And when those Snapchats came to light earlier this year, you might remember that members of the community here in Naugatuck held a large protest down on the town green, largely led by Naugatuck High School students, also condemning those messages. Now, according to the Borough of Naugatuck and the police department, a second independent review of the investigation also came to a similar conclusion, but the NAACP is also conducting its own investigation. For now, live in Naugatuck, Gabby Molina, Fox 61 News.